Welcome back to Energy Discussions. And today we're going to be talking about, or more like getting to the bottom of, what is truly the worst Star Wars movie. It's like solving this, of course, subjectively, because
all our opinions are fact.
are fact. Well, this is the Star Wars community, so that's how everyone acts. So,
Okay, my opinion is fact then. Yours can be subjective.
mine is subjective. Well, we're going to be looking at mostly fact, but at the same time not calling it objective because everyone has different opinions. So some of it can be opinionated. Anyway, over the years, a lot of people have pointed at different films as being the worst of them, the worst one, and I think the discussion should be had about which one is truly the worst. I think actually most people are on the same page now about what the worst one is, but we'll look at the culprits here and kind of eliminate them one by one to figure out what the worst one is.
Yep.
So, going back to the prequel era, this one was not liked. These films were not liked when they were originally released, and a lot of people called Attack of the Clones specifically the worst Star Wars movie.
I have beef with that opinion. Attack of the Clones is my favorite Star Wars movie, so...
It is one of my favorite as well, and a lot of people who grew up with the prequels would agree as well. But it actually didn't start there. So when we came in 99, Phantom Menace came out. Out of the 4 at the time, Phantom Menace was the worst Star Wars movie.
It didn't even start there, though, because when Return of the Jedi came out, there were the purists.
The purists that... I'm not counting that one, though, because most people liked it, and not a lot of people referred to it as the worst. It's like... It's like, when people talk about bad Star Wars movies, that one isn't thrown into the conversation.
Yeah, I think most people have come around on it by now anyway.
So for now, we're looking at our nominees. We got, we're going to throw in Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones. Sequels come out. There was equal talk about, what's that one? Force Awakens. But that one will not be considered because I think...
Force Awakens was never considered the worst.
Well, some people... Well, actually, yes, some people did consider it the worst because it was the whole part of it being a plagiarism of A New Hope. And
even then, though, I feel like at the time, people still considered the prequels worse. People hadn't come around on that yet.
Some people, though, thought Force Awakens was worse than the prequels. But that did not mean that they liked the prequels. They just thought it was adding to the ever-growing horrible Star Wars pile.
Yeah.
So, but those are the people who I would say only like A New Hope and Empire. Yeah. There's only 2 good Star Wars movies. Everything else is not real, or whatever that means. Do you hate fun? Yes, you do. So... Last Jedi 2017, that one was the most divisive. I think that one literally split the fan base in half. Since then, I think more people have come around to not liking it, I want to say. And I think
especially
that has a lot to do.
Especially after something like Knives Out came out, where Rian Johnson, actually made a good movie.
Well, actually, no, that had the opposite effect. After Knives Out, people doubled down on Last Jedi. Because they were Rian Johnson fans at that point, and they said, Rian Johnson can't make a bad movie.
I should say after Glass Onion came out, then everything kind of fell into place.
I think it's between Glass Onion and Rise of the Skywalker, which did nothing for the trilogy, thus made The Last Jedi look worse. And,
it did nothing for anything.
Yeah, and the... Rise of Skywalker was also on that list. That one was disliked by most. So, and then I'll even throw in the Clone Wars movie here just because it's sitting at a 5.9 on IMDb, which I think is ludicrous, and people didn't like Ahsoka at the time, so she was annoying, and people got hung up on the fact that it was supposedly the first 4 episodes of the show stitched together in a movie, and it wasn't intended to be a movie.
It wasn't intended to be a movie, but at the same time, they made it into a movie, and it is a movie, and you can't really change that.
And I think it works as him. But
Yeah.
So looking at these 5 candidates, let's play elimination game here. So first one is going to be Phantom Menace. Reasons this is not the worst Star Wars movie is a couple points. One is the score.
Yeah.
And this, actually, the things I'm going to state here kind of go for all 3 prequels, even though we're not talking about Revenge of the Sith. The score, the third act, and the, I guess the tone is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
So I think Phantom Menace actually has the weirdest tone out of all the movies,
I agree with that.
with the exception of maybe
Well, episode
Return
9
of the
does not.
Jedi.
Episode 9 also doesn't
I was
really have a...
thinking about those 3, but I will say Force Awakens has a good tone. But but at the original 6, it's like between Phantom Menace or Return of the Jedi. But Phantom Menace is very strange. It's in a weird place. But it's like if you watch the last scene, I know a lot of people obviously who didn't like the movie, they still like the Darth Maul stuff. But they'll tell you that's not enough to save the movie. Just because Darth Maul's in it, that doesn't make it good Star Wars.
I think the fact that there's something that everyone agrees is good, though, automatically means the movie can't be the worst. It just means it can't.
Right.
It's
And
impossible.
It's like, Darth Maul, Qui-Gon Jinn are now favorites. It's like, I know people like certain things from the sequels. That doesn't make the movies good, but I don't know. I think it should count for something. And I think, people watch the movies, they enjoy it. There's just a lot of points you have. It's like the whole third act, like a third of the movie is solid. It's like watching it, listening to the music. The pod race even isn't in the third act. The opening,
The opening.
great. I know Jar Jar stuff.
I think the Phantom Menace has the most iconic opening of any Star Wars movie. Actually, think about it.
I think it does, except for
Like, even, I guess, A New Hope.
No Hope.
I guess A New Hope, but like, the only reason that one's iconic is because it's the first one. If that one was like the second one or whatever, that wouldn't be the most iconic opening.
I think actually, what's that one? Attack of the Clones has the least iconic. I would say.
Out of the 6, I would say yes.
But
That one or episode 5, because nobody remembers the opening to episode 5.
yeah, but episode 5 doesn't jump around. It stays on Hoth. Starts on Hoth, stays on Hoth.
Nope, it starts with Vader launching the probes.
Yeah, but to Hoth.
Yeah. But anyway, back to which one's the worst.
So let's just go ahead and knock off Phantom Menace because it doesn't make sense.
We've already proved it's not the worst.
Yes. Now let's do Attack of the Clones. Same deal, except times like 10 here is the score. I don't understand how you can watch Obi-Wan doing all of his stuff throughout the entire movie up until the third act and not be interested / invested in it.
See, I kind of want to take the reins for a sec here. Attack of the Clones is a mystery movie that's based around Obi-Wan playing detective, basically, and trying to figure out what's going on with the whole army of the Republic that's being formed. That's trying to be prevented. And the whole thing is a plot set up by Palpatine, and the plot works in a way to where you kind of know what's going on, but you don't know how. And you start to get the pieces to the puzzle as you go along.
If you found that to be boring or uninteresting, you were not interested in the movie to begin with. You did not give it a fair chance. There's no way
you just weren't paying attention.
Or that, which in turn is because you weren't interested. There is no way you're watching that and saying, boring, this is lame, because it's literally like the same thing in A New Hope and, Empire Strikes Back, which is considered the best one. Empire Strikes Back takes a minute to get going. Right?
It takes a lot longer than a minute, but yeah. And it's still my favorite, or not my favorite, but I think it's a really solid move.
Yeah.
Like,
The New Hope has a lot of downtime too. It's like Just because it's not nonstop action, I guess, isn't good. But then that means no Star Wars movie's good. So
yeah, like you're allowed to have a slower opening. You're allowed to have a slower movie. Attack of the Clones, I would consider as the slowest of the Star Wars movies, but that's because it's methodical in its setups and what it's doing.
Probably, yeah. The score, top 3 score at least, not higher.
Like
I had it at 1 or something.
Yeah, Attack of the Clones is my favorite movie. It's my favorite score. Like you can't just see a ton of the scenes. Like the scene of Anakin and Padme entering the Geonosian arena. That scene, that score is just, it is cinematic perfection.
I could already see some people saying that score does not save a bad movie, and I
agree.
I would agree, but also disagree, because I think out of any single element in film, score does the most for a movie.
Yeah. I don't think it can save a movie, but I do think it elevates the strengths that are already there in any given movie. A mediocre movie can become good by score. It cannot save a movie, but it can make a movie that much better.
It is the ultimate elevating tool, I would say. And then obviously the third act. Well, even before the third act, back to the Obi-Wan stuff, the action, the Jango Fett fight on Kamino, him arriving on Geonosis, all of this stuff. It's
the Separatist Council meeting.
Yeah.
Talk between him and Dooku.
Just, I don't know. It's like, it's still all interesting, all this, and then Anakin and Padme go to Geonosis. They have that whole scene, and then the whole third act, which is like the whole arena stuff, the clones showing up, the duel with Dooku, all this stuff is just, it's just nonstop. The pacing, the pacing's better than Phantom Menace for Attack of the Clones. Even though it's slower, it might be the slowest movie, which is really weird. But I think that's because it leans into that mystery element more, and it's interesting.
It's kind of like, it's the bomb under the table. Everyone knows it's there, but you're just waiting for it to go off. And the build up to that moment just makes the moment when the Clone Wars starts that much better.
Yeah, so I think, interestingly, more people would consider Attack of the Clones the worst Star Wars movie over Phantom Menace. But I think Attack of the Clones is better than Phantom Menace.
I'll make my own video on Attack of the Clones one day.
Yeah,
I'll defend all of it, but now is not the time for that. We've established just not the worst.
Yeah, we'll probably end up doing a prequel, each trilogy like kind of video.
Yeah,
at some point. But and then let's jump to, I guess, the Clone Wars movie.
Yeah, we can knock it all out.
Just no, it's not that long. So it's not a waste of time. It's solid action. It sets up the show. I think it works as a movie. The characters are good. I never got the whole Ahsoka is annoying thing. We saw it as kids. I never thought she was annoying.
And in that movie, there were so many fan favorite characters like brought to the screen. Obviously, Ventress already existed, but she was brought in. And then Captain Rex existed for the first time ever.
Brand new character. One
of his first lines is one of the most quoted lines just in Star Wars. In my book, experience outranks everything. And I think Lucas proved that correct because he knew what he was doing.
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know. No, it's not the worst. That's solid. It's solid Star Wars. And basically, you wish we had that now. I feel like those were the last 3. You wish we got all this. And even still, the first episode of Ahsoka was like a full callback to Phantom Menace, and everyone liked it. So it's like, so if you like that, then you like the movie.
Yep.
Why would you like a callback to a bad movie?
Yep.
Okay. Last Jedi.
Oh, here's where we get to the real candidates.
Yeah, first contender. Honestly, say what you want about the prequels. I don't think they had anything that compares to Canto Bight, that whole segment, and Rose as well. Just Canto Bight, Rose.
I want to say something about those specifically, is that I don't think they're as bad as people make them out to be. Yes, they're pretty awful, but at the same time, like, stuff like that has existed in movies before, and you didn't complain. I think the reason people are so against it in this case specifically is because it's not something that's like in Star Wars.
Well,
And that makes it worse.
I don't mean them as existing at all, period. Like, they shouldn't be in Star Wars. I'm talking about just what they symbolize. What Rose symbolizes, what she did in that movie, and what Canto symbolizes as the scene.
I'm not going to defend either of them.
Right. That's what I was referring to. I'm not, But, like, what Rose does at the end is the equivalent of in Phantom Menace if Jar Jar was there when Anakin was flying the Naboo starfighter, and he just, like, pulled the joystick the controls as he's trying to launch the torpedoes and just messed him up. That's basically what that's the equivalent, because she's the Jar Jar of the
That's
sequel.
an insult to Jar Jar, and a lot of people would agree with me.
That's what I'm saying. Jar Jar doesn't go out of his way to ruin things. Some people would, like, disagree, but, like, he literally does not ruin it for other people like Rose does. She literally ruins Finn's moment. So,
yeah.
And then the Rey and Kylo stuff is actually probably my favorite part of the movie, but there's plenty of other things. Like, it completely is character.
I disagree with it.
Yeah, I mean, some people don't like it. Like, there's things that are...
Yeah. Like, I don't mind the whole, like, force connection thing. I think new force powers, you got to have some leeway with it. I don't like Kylo's characterization, and Rey isn't a character, so...
No, Kylo... Well, I think looking back as a trilogy as a whole, Kylo is just not great because... I mean, the sad thing is he's probably the best character in the sequels, but at the same time, there's so much that wasn't done that should have been done.
Yeah.
But the more important thing is Luke. And what they did to Luke.
I forgot. I blocked it out of my mind.
It's literally the worst thing about that movie is they turned Luke into the grumpy guy that doesn't care about training Jedi anymore. He tried to kill his nephew and...
The sad old man that's waiting to die. It's literally become a trope because of Disney.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense at all. And it throws away the entire original trilogy. So that's something that say what you want about midichlorians, all that. The prequels never destroyed the originals. They were just, speaking for people who didn't like it, they were just bad. They were just bad on their own. I don't agree with that, but the sequels actively hurt the other movies. And that's why I would argue that the two real contenders are Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. Which Rise of Skywalker is just bad fan fiction.
Yeah, no. I think a lot of what Rise of Skywalker has done wrong has been dissected so much. Everybody knows why it's so bad.
It's functionally bad. Last Jedi is, I guess, idealistically bad. I don't even know if that's a word. It's just, you had the wrong ideas. You went about it the wrong way. It was just wrong for Star Wars, right? Last Jedi was, or what's the other one?
It feels malicious. But Rise of Skywalker feels ignorant.
It's ignorant. It's structurally bad. It's wrong. It's not wrong. It's incorrect. There are things that are just, you don't read your own stuff. You don't know your own lore. You don't care enough. It's all this stuff. It was just insulting was what it was. See? Yeah, I think that's what I would always say is Last Jedi is bad. The Rise of Skywalker is insulting.
But I think The Last Jedi is also insulting, just in a different way.
In a different way. But especially when you look at Luke. But again, it's like you look at the entirety of The Last Jedi. I think that's another topic is what's worse, what they did to Luke or what they did with the Emperor.
Like, Luke grew into the original trilogy, but doing what they did to the Emperor ruined the entire saga, right?
Yeah.
Because the whole point of the saga was Anakin brought balance back to the Force because of Luke. Because Luke saw the good in him. And now Luke doesn't see the good in anybody, and now it didn't matter anyway because the Emperor's back.
What? It literally just... What? So Vader should still be alive. The Emperor should still be alive. If Disney wrote Luke...
Yeah.
All those people should still be alive. The Rebels would have lost.
Now the Rebels still would have won.
How?
Because reasons.
Okay. Because Rey was on the team.
Yeah, sure, why not?
You get the point. So basically we're down to the two sequels, and in my opinion, it's Rise of Skywalker. I think that's the worst Star Wars movie, and I think we're at the point where most people would agree with that, which is what I kind of alluding to earlier.
I think the Rise of Skywalker is the obvious choice, which makes me hesitant to pick it as the worst one, because it feels like by, saying the Rise of Skywalker is cleanly the worst one, it feels like you're kind of sweeping a lot of what Last Jedi.
Well, you're kind of giving it a pass, which is not the case. I think they're both bad. But in this specific case, we have to pick one that is the worst. The other ones aren't bad.
I honestly want to say Last Jedi, just because if Last Jedi wasn't the way it was, would Rise of Skywalker, it would still be bad, yes, but would it be as downright malicious?
Honestly, I don't think Last Jedi had all that much to do with Rise of Skywalker. Because, as we saw, that was part of the problem. It wasn't a planned trilogy. They didn't work with each other.
Yeah, Abrams wasn't even going to originally direct it, though.
True, but neither was Johnson. So it's not like
Johnson for Last Jedi.
No, or for Last Jedi, but not for Rise of Skywalker. It was going to be a different guy, a new third person. So either way, you would have had a incoherent mess.
Yeah.
But I think it was J.J. Abrams. It was like a combination of three things. It was like he was trying to tie up a trilogy that wasn't a trilogy. He was trying to fix The Last Jedi as much as he could. And he was also trying to make it an interesting movie on its own.
And he had to cap off the saga.
Right. Well, yeah.
Have you ever heard of the original draft for Episode 9, the Duel of the Fates draft?
With the Maul?
No. This was the one that was with all the sequel trilogy characters. That was going to be the original script before JJ took over.
No.
You should honestly look that up. I won't go into detail here, but it's something I think I probably have to call Rise of Skywalker worse now, just because I know that exists. I honestly forgot about that until now, but yeah, no, Rise of Skywalker, as bad as Last Jedi was, Rise of Skywalker still had potential to turn it around, and it didn't.
Well, that was kind of the idea. This is the whole Halo Reclaimer trilogy thing, but it's like again, it comes back to the middle one. The middle one plagues the first and the last. So
yeah,
it is partially the fault of Last Jedi why Rise of Skywalker is so bad. And the Rise of Skywalker is so bad on its own, regardless. But The Last Jedi did no favors and maybe even set it up for failure. But
we'll never know.
So that is the final point there. The Rise of Skywalker is the worst Star Wars movie in our opinion. And I think
we haven't seen the Ewok movies or the Holiday Special. Don't mention those comments. We know.
As the Holiday Special count as a movie?
I don't know, but people say it's the worst anyway.
Literally a
talk out.
It's a special. It's a TV special.
We're on to you, comments. We know.
Yeah.
We know.
No.
I see through the lies of the Jedi.
But I think this was more of a point not to really throw those under the bus again. I think this was more to clear the name of Phantom Menace, Clone Wars movie, and Attack of the Clones, because they were kind of just being hated on for, I guess, decades at this point. And unfairly so. I think people have come around on them, and there's enough fans. They've done a lot for the universe as a whole, more so than the sequels ever have done and ever will do, probably, especially looking at how after the original or the prequels came out, they continue to work on them so much that we got a Clone Wars show, and it actually turned around a lot of people's views on the prequels because of the Clone Wars show. They kept trying. They kept doing it.
Clone Wars is
what?
Clone Wars is a lot of people's favorite era now, and you'll never hear someone say the sequels is their favorite.
Yeah, because when the sequels were done, they dropped it. They didn't continue to work on it. Oh, let's try to fix this. Let's make it better. It was beyond repair. And whether they figured that out or not, or they just saw that it wasn't worth anything, no one cared enough, it wasn't going to make any money, they're not working on it, is the point. So that just goes to show also the potential that they set up. You know, Attack of the Clones had good ideas. Phantom Menace had good ideas, and they went with those. The sequels have none of that. So I think that's the final point there. Last Jedi, or God, they interchangeably, they're stupid, all of them. But well, those two. But Rise of Skywalker is the worst Star Wars movie.